Good afternoon and welcome to Panorama on the network service of the NTA. I am Ogwa Vivian Onyedibia. President Muhammadu Buhari declares state of emergency on water supply. And issues of girl-child education take center stage of women parliamentarians gathering. Plus, a discussion on gains of humanitarian and voluntary service for nation building. These and more on today's Panorama. Stay tuned. Well, a state of emergency has been declared by the federal government on Nigeria's water supply, sanitation and hygiene sector. President Muhammadu Buhari made the declaration at the formal launch of the National Action Plan towards revitalizing the sector for improved standard of living in the country. The president said, henceforth, federal government's support to the states will be based on their commitment to implementing the plan as well as end open defecation by the year 2025. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports.
This unveiling of the National Action Plan for the revitalization of water supply, sanitation and hygiene sector by President Muhammadu Buhari is without doubt a significant milestone towards improving access to clean water, decent toilets and good hygiene as part of the indices of good health. At the moment, the situation in the country is simply disturbing. Apart from failing to meet the MDG targets for water supply and sanitation that ended in 2015, Nigeria, amongst other shortcomings, is now ranked second in the global rating on open defecation. President Muhammadu Buhari said these preventable occurrences cannot be allowed to decimate the nation's population, and therefore water supply, sanitation and hygiene services must be provided in adequate quantity and quality in line with the Sustainable Development Goals.
It is my singular honor to formally declare a state of emergency on Nigeria's water supply, sanitation and hygiene sector. I call on all state governments to complement this effort by according the sector similar recognition to enable us to work together to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals targets for water supply, sanitation and hygiene by 2030.
Since coming to power, the president said the governing APC has demonstrated serious commitment to the development of the water sector by not only approving a 15-year roadmap, but also implementing faithfully the economic recovery and growth plan on the provision of infrastructure, including those of water supply, sanitation, and hygiene services.
Our country is experiencing increasing rate of urbanization, but recent indices for water supply and sanitation access require that governments at all levels redouble efforts and work towards meeting the nation's water supply and sanitation needs. This cannot be achieved if we continue with a business as usual approach.
President Buhari commended development partners and countries that have been supporting the nation's water sector, but called for sustenance towards achieving national aspirations. In Abuja, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
In the meantime, Water Resources Minister Suleiman Adamu says the official declaration of state of emergency in the water, sanitation and hygiene sector by President Muhammadu Buhari will stimulate the needed political commitment to wash issues at both federal and state levels. Musbah Udan Wahab reports that participants at the event commended the Buhari administration for this feat, which they say will ensure a massive turnaround.
A result of sequence of strategic steps over the past 3 years by the federal government is coming to bear. It's a feat that promises to rewrite the history of the situation in which more than 50 million Nigerians lack access to good water, while about 100 million of them do not have access to improved sanitation. Water Resources Minister decried impact of these situations on the socio-economic life of the country but now gratified that the National Action Plan will set the country on the right path towards attaining various targets, including the Sustainable Development Goals regarding water and sanitation.
The National Wash Action Plan has the primary objective of ensuring that everyone living in Nigeria has access to sustainable and safely managed wash services by 2030 in compliance with the Sustainable Development Goals for water.
With the state of emergency that has been declared today by Mr. President, we have received the highest political backing for the development of the sector.
Though provision of potable water is the responsibility of state governments, key actors say state governments should cash in on the collaborative commitment and vigor demonstrated by the federal government.
We need our governors to give support to the water boards to deliver water.
For me, this is a wake-up call or a call to action for the country.
Big things ahead is coming. That's how we should appreciate the legacy the president is trying to lay down for the future generation.
We think it's a big departure from just the conference room talk to action on ground.
The action plan has 5 components of governance: sustainability, funding, financing, and monitoring and evaluation. In Abuja, Musbah and Wahab, NC News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has emphasized the need for parliamentarians and nation-states in Africa to champion the cause of peace, security, democracy and socio-economic development on the continent. The president stated this at the opening of the 41st Conference of African Parliamentarian Union in Abuja. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo tells us more.
The conference, which coincided with the 73rd session of the Executive Committee of the African Parliamentary Union, is among others considering the role parliaments can play in finding lasting solutions to terrorism, armed gangs and organized crimes as challenges of security in Africa. Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari said, has done a lot towards reversing the terror trend and in particular halting the advancement of Boko Haram through effective collaboration with neighboring countries, strengthening the armed forces as well as initiating programs towards addressing widespread poverty as a significant factor boosting recruitments by terror groups.
In spite of this progress, we are not unmindful of the remaining challenges of armed invaders who ransack villages and small farming communities and commit terrible acts, including the cold-blooded murder of women and children. We are also making progress in addressing this challenge. It is my strong belief that the APU will develop strategies to assist governments in confronting this menace. I will be more than willing to fast-track your resolutions for deliberation and adoption at the ECOWAS sub-region and much larger African Union.
The president described as pleasing that the conference is also looking at the promotion of private investments on the continent as a key index of economic performance, saying, however, that the dynamics of global trade are changing fast.
As the global economic superpowers redesign and restructure the global economy, Africa cannot afford to be caught off guard. We have to navigate these uncertain economic times with realistic plans in which the private sector is key. Barriers that restrict ease of doing business and private sector growth must be addressed by legislation.
On the education of the girl child as a way of addressing early marriages, President Buhari noted with delight that 4 high school girls from Anambra State made the nation proud recently by winning the first position for innovation at an international competition held in the United States.
The success of these girls, some as young as 14, is a success for Africa as a whole. But more importantly, it is a demonstration of what can happen when the girl child is given the opportunity. Education should not be seen as a government program only, but as a human right and social imperative.
Both the APU chairperson and Speaker, Guinea-Bissau's Popular National Assembly, Kasama Cipriano, as well as Nigeria's Senate President, Bukola Saraki, promised to champion the objectives of bringing African parliamentarians together to support efforts at finding lasting solutions to the many problems confronting the continent.
Fighting corruption, good governance, fight against terrorism are all based on a great amount of support from the legislative arm of government. We parliamentarians must see the executive as partners in progress so that we can collaborate effectively to address these problems.
The APU conference had at its theme the role of parliaments in the fight against terrorism, armed gangs, and organized crimes in Africa, as well as promotion of private investments as a major factor in economic development. In Abuja, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And still on the conference, the Committee of Women Parliamentarians of the African Parliamentary Union has urged governments of African countries to adopt and implement a legislative and legal framework towards enrollment and protection of young girls in schools. Kenneth Nanim reports that the female lawmakers are of the view that such action will promote feminine values and discourage early marriages.
Consequences of early marriages have become issues of global concern. It is against this backdrop that the Committee of Women Parliamentarians from member countries of African Parliamentary Union are brainstorming in this forum to come up with a resolution that will help to promote girl-child education to discourage the trend in the African continent. Report published in August 2016 by the World Bank Group revealed that about 41,000 girls are being married out every day before the age of 18, bringing the figure to 15 million per year globally. Direct effects of these practices on the socio-economic development of the African member countries of the Union is being highlighted at this forum, having underscored the need for countries to take seriously the girl-child education to improve knowledge, skills, chances of employment to reduce poverty and early marriages. The female lawmakers are taking nothing to chance in achieving the objectives. The new leadership of the committee elected at the forum to lead for the next 2 years also pledged commitment to the campaign on women empowerment.
The governments should make sure every girl goes to school because we know a lot happens in the marriages. Some kids are dying when they get pregnant.
The Committee of Women Parliamentarians is also involved in the fight against trafficking in person and conflict resolution amongst member countries. Kenneth Nanim, NTA News.
And it's time for a short break now. Stay tuned as Panorama continues.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Together, no matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. Let's stop fighting each other. Let us live as one. It doesn't matter where you come from, your tribe or religion, man, woman or child. It doesn't matter who you are. Put Nigeria first. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
How can we develop when we're always in crisis? Families have become refugees in their country. No matter our differences, show some understanding.
No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
It's good to know you're still there. The Future Assured program of the wife of the president, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, has reached out to hundreds of women in Jigawa state to improve on their socio-economic well-being. In a message, the wife of the president advised women to actively participate peacefully in the 2019 elections. Our Mohammed Kazauri has details.
480 women from 30 constituencies of the state benefited from the program aimed to supporting women, especially at the grassroots. Wife of the president, Aisha Buhari, represented by wife of Jigawa State Governor Magajia Badaru Abubakar, said the Future Assured initiative will continue in this direction for the rural women to become self-reliant.
She has been sending other things. This is not the first time, and this will not be the last time. We thank her for that. We thank her for helping our women. We are with them, we are still with them, and we will continue with them, inshallah.
She called on women to actively participate in the coming 2019 elections. Women representatives commended series of empowerment programs introduced to improve the living standard of women in the state. They assured of their support and cooperation towards the success of present administration in the country. The items distributed were sewing machines, wheelchairs, delivery kits, and solar-powered lanterns. From Duse, Awal Muhammad Kazauri, NTA News.
More than 4,000 internally displaced persons have benefited from a humanitarian medical outreach in the Wasa IDP camp, Abuja. Ifeanyi Ezumba reports.
It was a remarkable day for women and children at the Wasa IDP camp. The Halima Factor Community Initiative came to this camp to help the displaced persons overcome some health challenges affecting the community, especially malaria and typhoid. The IDPs expressed delightfulness for the gesture, saying the location of the camp makes it a challenge for them to get such support.
It's very, very important for children because it prevents them from sickness.
So we appreciate her coming, and all of my people, we are very happy to see her. All of us here, we are a farmer. If you help us with agricultural material, we feel help ourselves.
The initiative, as explained by the founder, is complementing government's effort towards addressing health challenges in the country.
If you look at the statistics, malaria is one of the highest killers in Africa. So sometimes we concentrate on the HIV and the rest. Of course, we are doing HIV screening here, but our major concentration today is actually malaria and typhoid, those common diseases that are killing people seriously.
It's important that they know whether they have malaria, because you don't just start administering malaria drugs. Now, the new regiment is the fact that people need to be tested, and so when they are positive for malaria, before they get the drug. The same thing for HIV.
Children and women are the major beneficiaries of the medical support of the Halima Factor Community Initiative in Abuja. Ifeanyi Ezumba, NT News.
Discussion now, we're talking about humanitarian and voluntary services being rare qualities that stand individuals and societies out. And to talk on this is Halima Usman, a poet, author and initiator of the NGO Halima Factor Initiative. Welcome to Panorama.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's, humanitarian voluntary services, from my own understanding, it's when you offer, to perform services, you're not asking for any pay or you're not being paid for it. Now, how well do these actions, occur in our society?
Well, I think the basis or the background of our society has been built upon humanitarian services, has been built upon voluntary services. You know, when we were growing up, people take care of each other. I remember my mother was not around, but my neighbors were always there. In fact, I always say that I prefer when my mother is around than when she's not around, because my neighbors are always there to take care of the children, to make sure that we're okay. That was the basis upon which our society was built. But I think along the line, so many things came in and we got carried away. But I tell you that humanitarian services is still there. People are still offering it, but it's just that probably it's not being very much pronounced as it should be.
Now, you know, recently we had this discourse on a program here in NTA. We're talking about our values and ethics, you know, in the society. And you're talking about neighbors helping out and all that. How well are Nigerians doing, you know, with all this right now, with everything that is happening? How well are we faring in this aspect?
Okay, I do agree that I have said it, that a lot of things came in and carried away our attention from that good neighborliness, that being your brother's keeper. We have now shifted our attention to me, myself, and I. What do I have to benefit from everything? That has been, if I may say, the very genesis of our problem in this country. The singular fact that I look at everything in the monetary or materialistic term deviates my attention from what I stand to gain, the long-time investment or the long-time return on my investment of giving my time, my resources, and helping others. This has broken the fiber of the society. But it's not as if it is completely wiped up. People are still there. Some are willing, but some don't even know where to because of security challenges, because of so many things. Sometimes you help people and you get hurt for it. I know that there are instances that somebody stands on the way, you help him, or somebody comes to your house and requests for assistance, and you do. And at the end of the day, it turns out badly. There are instances like this that has made people to withdraw from giving humanitarian services or voluntary services. But that is not to say that it doesn't exist. It does exist. But I think we need to begin to see how we can project it more and see that people begin to see the value in giving out their services, their time, their resources, their intellect for the purpose of building the society again once more. Because, like I said, that is the genesis of our crisis in Nigeria. The moment we shift our attention from people to self-centeredness, then we are in for trouble.
Well, you talk with so much passion and all that, but I still want to ask, why so much commitment? You know, you're talking about reaching out to indigents in the country, and then this time around, as we saw in our background, to the Wasa IDP camp. Why so much commitment?
Okay, I am passionate for 2-3 reasons. One, our youth are confused. They don't know what to do or where to go to. And so a lot of times they are running. Some of them have this desire to do something, but they don't know. Because, of course, again, the issue of what do I gain? The desire to get something to put food on the table comes in. So I am passionate in these voluntary services because it provides a platform for you to see that, okay, you can give your time, you can give your energy, you can give your resources without asking for an immediate return. Because at the end of the day, what goes round comes round. If you give good, it will go round and it will come back to you. So one, we are trying to role model for the youth to see and to give them an opportunity to volunteer. I am bold to say that I know some of the youths that started volunteering with me. Some of them are working elsewhere, and the singular reason they got those employment was the fact that they volunteered freely in one Halima Factor initiative. And today they are working well. And they still call me from time to time and say, this is what has happened. Because they keep on asking them, when you were working, how was it? They say, nothing. I don't give them anything. Most of these people that volunteer, they are people that just come because they are passionate to see, what else can I do? How can I help somebody else? And it has gone a long way. So these are our passion, giving youth a platform, giving them something to look up to, giving them a reason to see that beyond money, there are other things that are important, which is helping somebody else.
Well, I wish there was more time to talk about this because I want to take, you know, an exception to the word confuse youths. But then I'm sure we'll talk about it some other time. Thank you for coming on Panorama.
Thank you for having me.
And now sports. Fans hail Super Falcons list for Alcon 2018 as Nigeria Shooting Federation pleads for inclusion in National Festival. Let's hear from Tamara Ebiwe on Sports Update.